to another episode of What a Week, our interactive show where we talk about everything that's happened this week. And I don't talk on my own. I talk with my two co-hosts, Tony and Mr. C. Say hi to them, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Pick up yourselves. Oh, Terri, you're looking radiant today, Terri.
Oh, thank you. Do you know what it is? I went to bed early for once because this pandemic has had me going to bed at all stupid hours and waking up at silly times because I'm just not tired enough. Is anybody else suffering from that?
I think we're losing track of the days and the time, aren't we? Every day seems like a weekend. You've got no work and you've got nothing to do.
Yeah, I saw something online where someone said on Sunday, they said, okay, the short weekend is over. Now we're going into the long weekend. So Monday to Friday is the long weekend, supposedly.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How's everyone's sleep been? That's what I want to know, because my sleep is really funky now. I don't feel tired enough to have a full night's sleep.
I personally have been very disciplined. I get to bed at 11 o'clock every night without fail. So it's like train me when I see 10:30, start getting ready for bed, and I get a full sleep up by 7, and then I start my day. And because you know what happens like this, you're gonna go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, wake up at 11. It's gonna really mess with your clock, and I just want to try and keep some level of stability.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be very disciplined in that area.
I've been going to bed at all different kind of times. One day I might go to bed like 5 o'clock, wake up around about 11, 12. I'm up for another 3 hours, go to bed again 4 o'clock. All different kind of stupidness I've been doing. Madness, absolute. My whole body clock is messed up. The only thing I know is that this program is at 3 o'clock, and even then, my body clock messed up with it. This is the only bit of stability I've got in my life.
This is the only order you have in life. The rest is just freestyle, yeah? Anything goes. But don't you find you sleep better when you do your yoga, actually? The days you do your yoga, do you sleep better?
Apart from the Sundays, what I do, I literally meditate and then I sleep for around about an hour after yoga. I don't do anything after yoga, so I don't go on fast book or any of them kind of things there at all. I stay in that nice little tranquil moment, and then that's been really nice. That's been really nice. So that's a nice little quiet period of time that I have, which is just my time. Don't let any outside influences come into it at all. So that's calming for me. That's calming. 1:30 to like 2:30 is my calm moment.
Lovely. And if you're watching and you also want to share with us something that you have been doing for yourself during this COVID, or something that you've picked up and started doing for yourself, just for your own self, for meditation, for whatever, please share with us in the comments as the show goes on. Be interactive with us. Let us know your comments, your feelings on everything that we're talking about today. And if you have something pressing even that you want to talk about that happened this week, share it with us in the comments and we will pick up on it and we will put it in the show, because we love when people interact with us, don't we, guys? That's just one of the best parts. Right. So the first thing I want to talk about today is this week was World Earth Day. Who knows about World Earth Day, or Earth Day? Sorry, it might have just been Earth Day.
Happy birthday to Earth. Happy birthday to Earth. Happy birthday, dear Earth.
Happy birthday to Earth. Now,
I love that.
Who is the Earth Father? The day Earth was born. Who is the father that tell us what?
We'll have to go on Murray for that. We'll have to do a DNA test, and he will have to tell us who is the father.
Because there's a bagger man. There's a bagger man claiming that he's not the father. So we have to know who's the father.
We'd have to go to Nigeria to find out the answer, because I know there's only one type of midwife who could deliver the earth into this world, and it has to be a Nigerian woman.
Okay.
Nigerian woman. The midwife is definitely Nigerian.
Right. Then she will know what day the earth was born, so we can get it correct, put it on the birth certificate, and we know we have the facts.
Yeah. The earth certificate.
Do you you know what? As you said that, it's such a Caribbean thing where they can't say certain words. Like my grandfather can't say certificate. He'd say certificate.
Certificate.
Yeah. Like that.
Yes.
Yes. And even film, he'll call it a flim. Because he doesn't let the L. He doesn't want to let the L be on its alone. So he'll be like, Flim, we're going to watch the Flim. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah,
What birthday? Yeah.
The other one is in the evening. They don't say evening, they say Evelyn. Good evening. I want to know who this woman Evelyn is.
Evelyn. One more. An alligator is a cocodril.
I haven't heard that one before. I'm not gonna lie. That was new to me. Very new.
Yeah, good one.
We digress, but that was great. Nostalgia, that was. What is Earth Day and why is it important? I'm just going to read something here. It said that since its inception in 1970, Earth Day continues to grow as a worldwide phenomenon focused on promoting cleaner living and healthy, sustainable habitat for people and wildlife. Celebrating Earth Day serves as a conscious reminder of how fragile our planet is and how important it is to protect it. Now, how fitting is this on its 50th Earth Day? We're in a pandemic. I believe that the Himalayas or the Himalayans haven't been seen in many years, but now they can be seen because the sky is clear. A lot of places in India, all the dust has cleared up and they're able to see their lovely blue skies. A lot of animals are thriving in their habitat. How significant that we have a pandemic during the Earth Day when we should be talking about how fragile our Earth is. Is it fragile? And do we need to maybe make this I'm thinking, do we need to make this like a holiday where every Earth Day, everybody sit down in their yard and be on lockdown so the Earth can thrive? I think that's an idea. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's one of them things where I think it was Idris who was saying that as well. He's saying that we should have a pandemic break every year to celebrate. You know what I mean? So I think 1 month or at least 2 weeks, we should definitely everybody should be on lockdown to give the Earth and give us a little break and a recharge. You know? Definitely. Yeah.
I think it's been quite. I mean, yeah, in a controlled environment, I think it could be quite good for everybody to do this every year. Do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen some videos online of certain towns and cities around the world where the animals are sort of coming back. I heard that the waters in Venice are freshening up now and fish are returning. And I saw some video of goats in Wales, sort of mountain goats coming down to the town while no one was there. So it is quite clear that the Earth within itself has the capability of replenishing itself if we get out of the way. Yeah,
definitely. And yeah, good for our bodies as well as for the Earth, I think, to have this as a national. Right, we should start a petition. That's it. We should start a petition. If we get enough, signatures? I don't know how many, 100,000 or something, then it goes to Parliament and maybe we could just create this new holiday. I think it could be a vibe.
My only problem there in that definition that you just read out, it talked about sustainability. And in my experience and understanding, whenever I see that word sustainability, it always linked to the fact that many of these elites talk about how the world has too many people and we need to cut down on the populations because they're using up the world's resources. So I'm always a bit skeptical when I hear that word, and it wouldn't surprise me, of course, if the people behind creating this Earth Day are also, people behind talking about sustainability and overpopulation.
Very true. That is very true. And gosh, because do you know what? That's very deep. I'm almost lost for words, but it's true. They have power, but then at the same time, there's that contrast of how are they going to sustain the world, and then the actions that they take to do so sometimes go against us as human beings, doesn't it? Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's the way an agenda is cloaked that makes it look benign and helpful. So we celebrate this Earth Day. It's wonderful. The Earth's replenishing itself, but really the reason behind it has to do with the sustainability, right? So sustainability is all about whether there are sufficient resources for the people on the planet, and if not, what can we do? Well, the obvious is to kill them, right? So it ties back into, you know, we won't go into today, but, you know, smallpox vaccines in Africa and all this sort of stuff and destabilizing populations. But it all ties into this whole thing about, oh, well, we've got to do it because that way we're going to have the correct balance and the earth will be able to sustain itself. So I'm always suspicious when I look at these definitions because I've heard them before. It's a similar argument to climate change. And, you know, whatever side of the argument you're on with climate change, but one thing that always stands out is the fact that humans are greedy. You know, we're destroying the planet and something needs to be done about it. Well, what do you do about it? You cull humans. That's what they're telling you without telling you. So Earth Day, yes, you know, we appreciate the planet that we're on, and we want to play our part in, you know, keeping it sustainable in terms of, you know, not polluting it, but also be wary about those who push this agenda.
Good point. Good point, man.
Yeah.
Good point. I think again is that we can't just be celebrating things willy-nilly. We definitely have to kind of, on a day like Earth, I think we definitely have to say the things which are important for the Earth. And again, it's about, you know, helping us all as a community to live better lives together, as opposed to, as you're saying, Tony, you know, let's drop vaccine in a certain part of Africa and stop them from having children, for example. So it's got to be something more holistic, I think.
Yes, and that segues right nicely into my next topic, which is this week they started to do trials on the COVID vaccine. I heard, I'm not sure if it's factual, they were offering £600 for people to offer themselves up to do the vaccine trial. That's something any of us would do. For me, hell no, there's no. Is there any amount, actually? And we're going to ask people who are watching, is there any monetary amount that would allow you to be trialed on with this vaccine? Mr. C, I would love to hear what you think about this. I mean, it started already. There's been trials, and I think it started in Oxford, the trials. But apparently, there is some monetary offering of £600 for you to have a go at this vaccine.
They could give me 6,000, 600,000. Me not do it. I'm not doing it. I don't trust them. No.
6 million?
No. What's the point of having 6 million if you're not allowed to spend it?
You could pass it on to generations to come.
No, listen, the easiest thing for me to do would be to sign up my baby mother to do it. And then if anything happens to her, she can pass it on to me. Because I get it by default with the children. That would be the smart thing to do. You understand? But me, no. And the reason why I find it, I might have touched on it last week, is that before I started doing comedy, I remember I was a little bit strapped for cash, and I looked at trials for vaccinations, not just vaccinations, for drug companies. And I looked into it because I saw an advert in the Evening Standard. And I think they was offering around about, at the time, they was offering a couple of hundred, it was back then. But when I looked into it, I've looked into some of the things where it's gone wrong for people. And again, I remember there was a trial which took place at Northwick Park. I can't remember what it might have been cancer or something like that. They were doing these drug trials for. And the people who took them, they ended up, their fingers went all black and their toes went black and their fingers were dropping off and their toes were dropping off as well. So that was one of the side effects. So no amount of money can replace your fingers or your toes.
Yes, you know? Yeah, agreed. I think Hazel, who's watching, she agrees. She said, no way. And somebody else said, no, not for me. It is definitely not for them. Tony?
Because in order for them to see whether this vaccine is working or not, then I'm going to have to give you COVID-19.
Yes.
To see if you're, and why would you want to put yourself through that? It's from what I've heard, when it's at its worst, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So why would you put yourself through potentially 2 weeks of absolute torment for £600? There's smarter ways you can go and earn money.
Every vaccine has a strand of the disease or whatever they're giving you. It's always inside the vaccine, isn't it? And if they haven't counteracted it properly, like you said, all sorts could go on with you. Tony, what do you feel on this trial of vaccines? And if we don't try it, who's going to do it? Who's going to try it?
Well, this is quite common. I mean, you know, drug companies are always advertising for guinea pigs to come. for a set of money. I want to know how many black people are actually going to volunteer themselves for these trials. I doubt many, if any at all, to be honest with you. But no, it sounds very suspicious, and I think that this is probably the sort of phased part of the program of introducing it. So you get some guinea pigs, they take it, then there's going to be sort of news reports saying, oh, we took it and it's all right, and you know we were resistant to the virus, and so they're going to be publicizing it. Then other people are going to say, oh, I'll try it too. So there's first of all, they offer you money. Once they got you scared enough, you know, people will be lining up at the GPs to get their shots, and then the rest of us who decide not to have it, we're going to be penalized in some form. So,
yeah.
You know, as you said, I mean, there's no money that you can pay for somebody that you do not know to invade your body with chemicals you do not understand. There's no money that can pay for that, really.
And the other thing, just going to pick up on what Tony's saying there, I saw a tweet a couple of days ago where a lady was saying that the UK has begun clinical trials on COVID-19 vaccine. They're saying if it works, there's not going to be enough to go around for everybody at first. So probably they should give it to old folks and higher risk groups first, and the anti-vaccination people last. And they were saying that there should be a rule for anti-vax. If you don't have COVID-19, you can't have COVID-19 vaccination until your children have been given the MMR and the DTaP polio shot.
Wow. So they're trying to link all the different things. Yes.
It's a tired old strategy of coercion. You see, tying your whole family into it, you know, because you're not going to cooperate. I mean, this is what you know, this is this is basically the soft technique they use before they take the velvet gloves off, and you see the iron hand come down, because if they intend to roll this out and they find that there's a significant amount of people who refuse it, then there are going to be soft penalties.
Yeah.
Which will affect you always in your pocket, whether you can get certain jobs or you can travel, or certain so-called privileges that we currently enjoy will be removed from you until you decide to have the vaccine.
Yeah, I believe that too. And well, I believe that could happen too. And also I see it as like when you get a new phone, you know, and they bring out a new phone, the smart people never go out and get that phone first, because the first batch is always got some sort of errors that everyone has to learn from. And I just feel the same with the vaccines. Even if there is a vaccine and it comes out, I feel that for me personally, it'll be a long time for me to see that everything's cool before I'd even consider it. So with regards to the vaccines, it's very touchy for me. But at the same time, Donald Trump, you know, everyone's friend, used Thursday's daily coronavirus meeting. It was a briefing that they have every day, isn't it? And he used Thursday's ones to suggest that we could inject ourselves with disinfectants and give ourselves UV lighting to hopefully treat the COVID, and that we should look into that. What do we think about this ludicrous statement he made? Because, you know, there has been studies that when you use some of these disinfectants, that it can kill corona in like 1 minute or whatsoever. So he suggests that we look into how we can put these things into our body. Is he mad or is he mad? Let me know what you think in the live comments, please. And also, I'll throw it over to Mr. C and Tony. What did you think when you heard about Trump's stupid comment this week?
Well, first of all, I didn't think it was ludicrous, Terry. I think that's out of order to actually mention the word ludicrous. I think it was more Vibes Cartel, really and truly.
I was wondering where you were going with that. But
it's more Vibes Cartel than ludicrous. Ludicrous really has something usually good to say, but I think Vibes Cartel is Donald Trump's advisor, health advisor in this situation. He's just trying to get the world to bleach. That's what it is. I think he was having a bit of fun. Me personally, I cannot believe that a world leader in their right mind could say something like that and be serious. He had to be joking. He had to be having a bit of fun with somebody in the press office there. I cannot believe that he would be so irresponsible to suggest that. And God forbid, I'm hearing that people now in America are starting to, some people are actually taking the bleach.
Oh my goodness. And you know,
that one person had been admitted into intensive care or into A&E because they had given themselves internally and external burns, chemical burns, because they were trying to put the bleach into their bottom, so that their body would receive it quicker.
Oh my goodness! And you know what? Trump actually did have another interview later where he said he was joking and he just wanted to rub the press up the wrong way. Tony, is this what a world leader should be doing? Is this a time to be making jokes and using his whole time where he should be briefing people to be rubbing people up the wrong way? I think he said it and meant it, personally. What do you think, Tony?
It is quite unprecedented that that a president would override the chief medical officer in giving the nation medical advice. So that's what really shocked me. I you know, as far as whether his solution works or not, what I've done is I've got myself some disinfectant and
Yes.
and I'm gonna try it before the end of the show. We're gonna see if I'm gonna be immune to coronavirus as per President Trump. But no, I mean it's yeah, you know what. And afterwards, apparently, when he was pulled up about it on a later reporting, he said, "Well, I was only joking.
Exactly.
I was only messing about with the reporters." So, I mean, what do you make of him? I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to say, and people won't let that go because they're still sort of haranguing him about, you know, why would you give people that sort of advice? And the mere fact that people actually follow it is incredible, isn't it?
This is it. And Anne-Marie has said, believe this, his mouth engages before his brain. I think he meant it. They did not allow him to speak the next day. Yeah, he must have been put on the naughty step. And they said to be quiet.
And he's telling me, don't try this at home.
Yeah, do not. This is for banter. It's for banter. We are not saying everyone should go and get themselves a syringe and some Dettol. Please do not do that. We can't take responsibility if you do that. It's nothing to do with us. Whilst COVID is still going and social distancing is still happening and is looking to make, I believe like the social distancing will be happening in the next year to some degree. Has anybody seen any apps or any devices that have been brought out during this time that help with this dilemma of germs and, you know, just avoiding COVID? Like away from masks, because I've seen nice masks made where you get a matching head wrap with your mask and they match in material. That's a lovely thing. But also I've seen a shopping app where you can now check how long the queue is at Tesco, Sainsbury's, all these different. I don't know if have you heard about this app, guys? The shopping app where you can check the queue.
Oh no.
You have see?
I'd like to know more about this because I really hate taking a chance of going to Sainsbury's and standing outside in the cold wind for an hour just for a tin of baked beans.
Well, I have heard about it, Terry, and I think it's a fantastic idea because like how it's forecasted to be rainy this week, I think that is going to play a big part. Nobody's going to want to, you know, stand out in the rain in a supermarket. So if you've got an app, I mean, they do it with the buses, don't they? They tell you when the buses come in, or you know, you got an app for that. You got an app to tell you what time the next train is coming. So an app to tell you when the next available space to stop outside Sainsbury's or Tesco's or the supermarket would be a wonderful thing. That's technology being used for good.
Terry, is that just for Tesco, or is that for all supermarkets?
No, what it is the app actually shows you for all the shops that it's a live app. As a person, if you're meant to go to the shop and enter the time that you went to the queue and got inside the shop, so you can add shops as you like. So if you go to your local pound store and you can then add it into that.
Okay.
She freeze.
Frozen.
She must have gone to Iceland.
We lost Terry for a moment.
Should be back, but that's a great idea, isn't it? If you can add shops like on your local high road, the shops that you go to, and then you can be told, you know, how long it's going to take for you to actually get to the front. That's a fantastic idea.
I think what they can do with that app as well, they can extend it to like say, well, you know, this shop has run out of toilet paper. This shop have enough hardware bread. So that'd be absolutely fantastic to say where you can get products or where products have run out. Save people a lot of time and hassle.
Yeah, this app actually does tell you about the stock intake as well inside the shop. Yeah, it's really smart and clever. But like I said, it is down to the people who are shopping to update the app to keep it updated, because obviously nobody's going to go around doing that all day. So it's just down to whoever's using the app to say, right, this shop had no toilet roll. They'll put it into the app. That will alert everybody else who wants to maybe go to that shop. They can look and see no toilet roll. So I think it's really good. Another one I've seen is like a little key ring. It's a key ring and it's like a hook like this. And basically it's a hook so that you can use it to open doors and things like that without using your hand. But the astonishing thing is this little piece of metal was £22.
Wow.
£22 for an essential hook, basically, guys. It was just a hook that you can hook onto doors to pull it open and so on and such forth. I mean, are people...
Is that online?
Yes. I saw it on Instagram and I thought, this is the time where people may be taking advantage now. What do you think about that? It's a bit...
Just going back to that point about the app, I want an app that tells me which of them teeth in shops they're putting up their prices.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one.
If we could have an app like that where you're kept up to date of shops that jack up their prices now, so I don't have to go there and argue with the man.
I know the name for it already. teethinshop.com.
I think we've got onto something here, you know, guys. We might need to have a business right down.
But Terry, that metal thing you're saying, I'm gonna save people a lot of money. £22. Get a coat hanger. Just carry a coat hanger with you.
Right.
Simple.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Just use the hook bit when you need to. Yeah. Push. Well, simple thing.
Yeah.
But you know what? This discussion just sort of highlights to me how, even though we're in a crisis and it's a difficult situation, crisis can be turned into an opportunity.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
If you can think outside the box. Do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we're used to a certain way of life and it's been locked down and we're in this sort of situation. But for some people, some entrepreneurial type of people, they're going to think, well, look, this is fine, an opportunity to create stuff that is not on the market, hasn't been on the market, and to make money.
Yes, this is it. This
is
the time.
A little tissue will open the door.
A little tissue will open your door. Agreed. Little tissue. And Francine said Trump's mentally unwell. He says inject disinfectants. Well, it will only be them Trump supporters who will follow his advice and they will die. Oh dear. Yeah, it's true.
We'll see when come the next election whether enough of them have died. Because if he gets put into power again, obviously there wasn't enough of them taking his advice.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think he's working very desperately because the re-election is coming up, isn't it?
And just to quickly on that point, it's quite interesting that this week that a couple of states have decided to come out and demonstrate against the lockdown, and Trump has not basically dissuaded them from doing so. He's telling them that they should exercise their rights. I think it's particularly in Michigan where they came out in droves in their vans and all the rest of it, and they're demonstrating about this lockdown is going down for too long, and we haven't got any money to live. And I'm wondering how long it's going to take for the British public to start getting restless and tired, because I'm starting to see, particularly when I go to the park, that there are more people in the park lying down, sunbathing, having family time as if it's normal. And I'm not seeing policing in the park as I did maybe a couple of weeks ago. So I wonder whether, the police have been told, you know what, ease up, and the government are saying, well, leave them for now because if the government can't give you a time frame, people are going to get restless.
Yeah.
They're going to get restless. And you're starting to see just small incremental bits of restlessness happening now. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think it was last week, there was this free-phased plan as to when to lift the lockdown, which was supposed to be June the 15th, right?
Wow.
So June the 15th is it's like a traffic light here, red, amber, and green is the last phase. In the last phase, all non-essential shops will open, but they might ask you to wear masks, blah blah blah. So you have that, and then obviously last week we had the Right Honourable MP Dawn Butler saying, well, it looks like it could be, the lockdown could be a year, 18 months. So do you see the government saying one thing, and then there's all these advisors or people who in the know who are saying, well, no, a year, 18 months seems to be, and this is I think is going to frustrate a lot of the public.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you think it will ease up if we have to mandatory wear masks? Because there are some countries now that by force you have to wear a mask if you want to go out and about. Why is it that the UK haven't enforced that yet? Why do we think that and maybe that will help to ease the lockdown? You know, if you do want to go out and see people, you must wear a mask. I feel like wearing a mask for me now, when I leave my house, I do it regardless, because I just feel that prevention is better than cure. And if that can help even somebody else, let's say I do have a trace of it, because sometimes you don't know, do you, if you've got COVID inside your body. That means I could be protecting others, so there's no vapor coming from my mouth that's just spreading out all over the place. So do you think masks should be made mandatory in the UK and places like America as well?
I think masks should only be mandatory for racists who have been saying for years that, you know, that they shouldn't be wearing those barkers, you know, but you know what I mean? Because we can't see their faces. We can't see their faces. So, you know, we think they shouldn't be allowed. All of those people, they must wear masks compulsory.
Yeah, because will it increase racial profiling if everybody has to wear a mask? Will it give the police more reason to stop you in the street and say, excuse me, take your mask off, and they need to check you out and all of that? Do you think that will increase, Tony?
Regardless of whatever crisis there is, there's always room for racism, right? So it doesn't matter what you know, what's going on around the world, you know, it's that sort of thing is going to happen. But I think with regard to the masks, I think from the very beginning, the government was sending mixed messages. Some people were saying wearing a mask is helpful. I think it was the chief medical officer who said, well, there's no guarantee that it works because you put your hand on it, right? And then you're going to touch the germs or whatever. And so I think that, again, there hasn't been a clear directive. But if they come back and say, well, the science suggests that wearing a mask is going to be the way to go and it's going to be compulsory, then yeah, I think it obviously makes sense to wear it.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing with the mask, this is what the reality is with the mask, from my perspective, is that they know that by saying to people wearing a mask, it gives them some kind of comfort. But the reality is, as Tony was saying, is that if you go outside and you wear a mask, then when you come back, you should be throwing that mask away. Because if you did go outside and somebody had coughed in the air COVID-19 and you had particles of COVID-19 now resting on your mask, you take off that mask inside the house, you now have particles of COVID-19 within the house. You're going to take the mask off, the COVID-19 transfers to another surface in your house, and then you breathe in COVID-19.
But
so
really,
if you wear a mask outside, you should dispose of that mask before you get back into your house. And every time you go outside, you should be wearing a fresh mask. That's common sense.
Yeah, but wouldn't that apply to our shoes and to our clothes? All the
well,
same?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. When you come in, you're supposed to take off all your clothes, put them in the washing machine. And that's what you're supposed to do, but nobody's doing that. So that's the same. It's the same thing, really and truly. You know, it lives on surfaces, according to what they're saying, whether it be paper, whether it be metal, whether it be human. So, because again, if we have to wash our hands every 20 seconds, so what about the sleeve?
Yeah, this is it. This is it.
So the COVID can't say, oh, look, there's a piece of sleeve there. Let me just jump here while he's washing his hands. And wait until he finishes washing his hands and then jump back onto his...
There's only so much we can do, isn't there?
I don't think there's actually any country in the world that currently have masks as mandatory for the COVID. And we know in many countries in the Far East, they've always been wearing masks because of their pollution. I don't actually think that. I think people are wearing it on their own for safety's sake. I'm seeing more of it in the UK. Every day when you go out, you see more people wearing masks. But like the government have said, they haven't seen sufficient science for them to sort of justify people wearing them because they feel that you could still catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm funny because like I go outside, I don't wear a mask. I don't. It's not going to happen for me. And again, it's like Anne Marie is saying that she thinks the mask will become part of the release from lockdown. However, I will not be one person who will be going outside and wearing a mask.
You know what? Well, I mean, Anne Marie makes the point there about NHS staff not having sufficient PPE, protective equipment. And I think there was a big scandal about a plane load of masks coming in from Turkey or something like that, which hasn't arrived. Or there's some sort of scandal. I mean, can you imagine? It's scandalous. Where every Thursday night, people are outside their houses clapping for the NHS, and the NHS basically have been sent into a battle with no guns. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's totally scandalous. And then we're seeing figures that show that high proportions of black and ethnic minorities are dying in the NHS. Well, what a surprise that is.
Yeah, it's true, because a lot of ethnic minorities make up the NHS, all them nurses and all them people that were crying for Brexit because they wanted everyone to be sent back where they came from. I hope they've changed their minds now, because all them people are needed and are not being sent anywhere, So let's move on from that and talk about single people during COVID, single women specifically during COVID. There was a video out this week, so we're going to play this video and then we're going to have a chat about single women during this pandemic. Let's get that video.
An important message for all the single women on lockdown, because nobody's talking about us, and I want to raise awareness. If you're in a corona couple and you're on lockdown with the love of your life, shut up, because it's not the same. Okay, also, if you're not having sex 5 times a day in isolation, then shame on you. Okay, because people like me are out here dickless. Okay, dickless. I've been dickless for 6 weeks, and my love language is touch. I ain't touched shit. And nobody's talking about us. So when you're talking about, you need to protect the elderly and protect people with asthma like myself, also protect the single women. Because no one's thinking about the single women out here who thought we had options this year, and now our options run out. Okay? I'm single in a pandemic and I feel like shit. So think about us the next time you're coupled up in bed with the love of your life.
I think
that's Miss London. Her name's Miss London.
She is
fantastic comedian.
Yeah, she is a comedian. Just for those who don't know, she's a comedian.
I thought she was a real person with a real issue. I was going to call her.
I know Dion very well, and I'm telling you, that was real. What she's saying. Even though she's a comedian, she means every single word what she's saying there. That's real for her. Her comedy is based on real life, mate. So that's very real for her. And it's a very real situation. So I just want to say, if there's any ladies out there who are suffering, please just send me your telephone number here in the comment section, and I will make sure that I will send a special package out for you to help you in these barren times.
Mr. Cedar, you can't do no hands-on research.
No hands-on. Well, no. Let me stop. Children are watching. Let me stop.
Let me talk to you. Tell me more about this problem that you're having. Let's hear it out. But actually, it's an underlying serious problem, because obviously you've got a lot of people who are dating, and they don't live together. And I actually know some people who are dating, don't live together, and actually following the government guidelines. So they're not seeing each other, right? Or rather, what should I say? They're meeting up, but they're standing 2 meters apart and having a conversation, then going home, right? So that must be very challenging for any relationship, and your relationship has to be pretty strong to withstand that sort of situation. I also know a lot of people who really don't care less about the government guidelines because they've got to see their loved one. But if you're a single person, then yes, it can be quite stressful. And I don't know who's stressed more. Are single women more stressed or single men? It's really hard to say. I guess it depends on how they're processing this whole situation, and the fact that nobody knows when it's going to end. I can understand that sister's frustration.
I think, well, look, if a lady has seen a man who is equipped with more than 2 meters worth of equipment, they can still stand 2 meters away from each other and still be in love. if it's more than 2 meters long, you know.
And can I imagine also that all the dating apps are absolutely thriving right now? You know,
why? I don't understand. Why is that?
Because you can meet people online and not have to go and meet them face to face. A lot of people are more confident that way. A lot of people just some people like the interaction of day-to-day flirting with someone and talking with someone. And during this COVID time, with more downtime, there's more space for you to flirt with more people. Because if you're free and single, you can open up the options, couldn't you? But via dating apps, because you can't go see anyone.
Yeah, you
and definitely can't go out.
And that way, look, when you think about it, yeah, you can meet people virtually. You can have a little bit of personal time virtually. There's no chance of catching any kind of diseases. And because it's virtual, hopefully you shouldn't even catching feelings either.
You ain't catching anything. But probably a lot of...
You're going to catch a virus in your computer, no?
True.
True. And there has been some banter about the side chicks and maybe the side men now showing up as well, because they're like, well, you're at home with your woman. What about me? So there's a lot of banter around that I've seen online, especially, which has made me giggle.
I have a lot of sympathy for men who have women on the side. It must be a very difficult time when your side chick is ringing you up or texting you secretly and you can't get away. You've got absolutely no excuse. You can't work out an emergency, and now your side chick is threatening to leave you for somebody else. That must be difficult.
Yeah, that must be.
You have to tell her, bro, who are you going to leave me for? You? Everybody's in lockdown. Shut up your mouth and just wait, man. Wait.
Relax yourself. Anne-Marie said, yes, she can have a different day each night of the week, virtual dating. You see?
Wow. And Tony, imagine now if you're a man and you've got 5 dates in that 1 week, bro, it's not costing you a penny.
For real.
Where you used to try and date 5 women in 1 week, that could be around about £400 to £500.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. We can have a virtual dinner.
You could.
Whatever you have to name, whatever I've got in my yard, I'm namming, innit? So it's all good.
I just offer some of my tin mackerel.
50-50, the bill's getting split, innit?
Cheap dates.
Yeah.
This week, Wednesday, also with Stephen Lawrence Day. Does everybody know that? It was the 25th anniversary, where we remember Stephen Lawrence and everything that's happened since his death, all the hard work that's been put in by his mother. And everybody was celebrating that, obviously virtually again, because you've got no choice. A lot of the events that usually happen this time of the year have been cancelled. So online, people were sharing their testimonies and stuff. But anyway, we have a video. So let's watch the video first, and then we'll have a chat about Stephen Lawrence Day.
Because of Stephen, live your best life. Your life matters.
That's it. They had a hashtag running, which was hashtag because of Stephen. And so many people shared how their life had changed, or their thinking had changed, or how Stephen's life impacted them. And then they put the hashtag because of Stephen. I wanted to see if there's anything you guys had to share because of that situation where there has been a change in your life or your way of thinking. It would be nice if we could share that. And any of the viewers, if you have anything you want to share with us, hashtag because of Stephen, please share it with us so we can read it out. But Mr. C, tell me about how Stephen Lawrence impacted you and your life.
It was a few different ways, to be honest with you. I think first of all, it was the hurt, the surprise, the shock, the anger. When you first heard about it, absolute horrendous crime. And then it was the injustice what happened afterwards. I went to the open inquiry down in Elephant and Castle, and probably somewhere I've probably still got the manuscript from it. And it's just when you realise just how much evidence they've collated on these guys, and the fact that they still got off, it was just unbelievable. You could see that it was just a complete travesty of justice, and so the anger. But I think because of, I'm not just going to say just because of Stephen Lawrence, but I'm going to say because of Stephen Lawrence's mother, I learned about good, because me personally, I was saying if it was my son, I would have dealt with it differently. But watching Doreen and Neville, Neville, and the way how they carried themselves throughout that traumatic time and troubled time, and even when they wasn't getting justice, their composure, their dignity was just, to me, it taught me so much. And because of them, I've learned to be dignified and to be humble and to always think about the bigger picture, not just your initial feeling of anger and hurt. So I've learned that now. Whereas at the time when that happened, I said I would have dealt with it differently. I used to do it as a joke routine where I said, number one, if my sons were, if one of my sons' life was taken like that, the first thing I would have done was I would have gone to the nearest off license. I would have bought 3 bottles of brandy, 3 bottles of rum. I would have jumped in my car. I would have driven all the way down to Elton. I would have looked for those boys and I would have run them over with my car. And then I would sit in my car and I'd drink the brandy, drink the rum until the police come. And when they come, I would say, I was driving officer, and I would only get 6 months. Because that's how much you get if you drink driving. That's how I dealt with it, But to think that she's now a baroness, that law has been changed, and we've got this wonderful day, not to think about the negative aspects of it, but to inspire other young people to say, because of Stephen, that just shows you how to deal with tragedy in your life, to make something positive and to make sure that your son's name is remembered for beautiful and inspiring things as regards to not those people and the crime.
Yes.
Absolutely wonderful.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah. I know that Stephen, I remember hearing about his story and how he was a talented young man, on the road to greatness, when he was cut down before he had a chance to make a mark on this world. And I think, like Mr. C said, the way his parents conducted themselves, tirelessly campaigning for their son for justice, these mistrials that basically worked against them and so forth. And obviously they made a lot of personal sacrifices in order to get justice. I think that really struck out in my mind. And then the other thing that I've never forgotten till this day, was the report that I think was Lord Justice Macpherson, which became known as the Macpherson Report. And the key line in there is where Lord Macpherson says that every institution in Britain is racist. Yeah. And you have to sort of sit on that for a minute to understand what he's saying. He's basically saying, whether it's in law, whether it's the medical profession, right? Whatever institution you find yourself in, racism is practiced. And I never got over that statement. And we are now, I think that was in 1993, if I'm not mistaken, that was written. And we're sort of almost 30 years away from that. And what has really changed in terms of, our progress in the UK, when, we've had just recently the Windrush scandals, and now we're looking at, things happening around the world to our people. So that has always stuck with me. And it's a sad reality that things have not progressed much past that up to now.
Mm-hmm. It is.
The other thing as well, I'm sure that they changed the law with Stephen Lawrence, because remember that you had double jeopardy before, whereas if you had been tried for murder and you'd got off, you couldn't be tried for murder again. And I think they changed the law, didn't they, because of Stephen as well. So that's another tremendous thing, to think that English laws had been changed because of the persistence of his mother and father is amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I've had a message here that because of Stephen, I have learned that we have to keep pushing for the desired results. And I think that's what I have learned from the whole Stephen Lawrence case, is that, you know, although it was a negative, like you said, Mr. C, it was a negative situation, but when we push and we believe and we have the tenacity to keep going forward, you can take that negative, and now he has been remembered for a very positive reason, and that was down to his parents. And that alone is inspiration. I agree with Mr. C quite a lot of what he said, because inspiration of being a parent, and obviously we have my own children now, because obviously back then I couldn't relate, but having my own children now and knowing what that pain must have felt like now, and how I would have dealt with it wouldn't have been as productive. But it has taught me that, you know, in these painful situations, we can be productive in them. We can even apply that to our current situation right now in this pandemic, where it's not a positive situation, but we can make so many positives out of it. As Tony said earlier, there's so many people out there who are entrepreneurs, who have ideas, who have things that they want to bring out. This is your time. This is your time. I don't think we're ever going to have a time like this where everything's on standstill. I believe it's so much easier right now to reach out to people who might not have been able to reach out to before, in whatever field you're in. I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I just feel that it's quite easy for me now to approach other presenters or even people in the industry to do a collaboration or to get some advice or just to put myself out there. Everybody's at home, everybody's watching social media. People have a lot more time. So now is the time really to turn this positive into something productive, if you want to, because I need to put that out there, because a lot of people are complaining, saying it's fine to not be okay. It's fine to sit at home and not want to do anything. So it's definitely a choice of yours. But I think from Stephen Lawrence, I would definitely choose the first option, which is to be as productive and get the most out of this that I can. So
yeah,
that
kind of goes back to something I was pointing out earlier, that rather than looking at a situation as a crisis really is an opportunity in disguise.
Very well put.
And like, you know, I think what you said, Terri, is so true, that this is about your own personal mindset. So, you know, yes, we're going to be on lockdown for another 2 more weeks at least, and definitely longer. So I think it's all right for, you know, for 1 week to say, you know what, I'm not going to do anything. However, 2020 will really be defined by what kind of person you are, what kind of mindset you have. So for some people, a lot of people, 2020 is going to be the year where they always said, let's write off 2020. 2020 was a horrible year.
Yeah.
That's you if that's what you want it to be. But if you let this time, as you're saying, Terri, pass you, and you haven't learned something new, you haven't learned a new skill, like Tony's there was saying about the open learning courses. If you come out of this moment and you haven't got a new skill, learned something new, then you're a whatless bungle. Absolute whatless bungle. Absolute. Because 2020 is supposed to be the year where you say, you know what? I learned so much. I've come out of this a better person, a better human being, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah. Tony, do you want to share with us before we round up about the free courses, just in case somebody is listening? And I would like to learn something new, actually.
Right.
Tell us a bit.
So there's a number of educational institutions that are pretty much giving away free courses because they realize that we're under lockdown and we've all got time. And one of them I've been taking advantage of is the Open University. So on the Open University website, they've got a number of free courses that you could never get, you know, under normal situations. And if you're into learning, and you know, I'm a believer that, you know, life, you grow as you continue to learn, and if you stop learning, life becomes stagnant. And they've got a number of subjects, you know, ranging from you know, mathematics to cookery to craftsmanship, in any field that you're interested in. And I've just picked up sort of African studies because that's my interest. But whatever your interest is in, you can find a free course, and they're not very long. Some of them are long, some of them are not. Just depends on your schedule. But I've been using them, and I've found them very helpful for my personal development.
Definitely. And I think even if it's not free, I think a lot of them are giving heavy discounts right now, because I have signed up to the Babel or Babel app. I don't know which way you pronounce it, but you learn a new language on there. And it had a deal on there where I've paid £40 for a year's worth of the course to learn Spanish. I chose Spanish.
Wow.
My children are learning Spanish, and I thought this
Hola,
could be
Hola, hola.
So a lot of places are doing very heavy discounts, or even on the apps if you want to learn something, or short courses online. You're very right, Tony. So now is the time to take advantage of that. And I also want to encourage people to call up your gas, your electric people, all them people, and have the tenacity to ask for a discount, because I've heard some testimonies this week, guys, about a lady who pushed for some discount. She told them her situation, and they actually gave her £200 off her bill. They started with £50. She pushed it to 100, and then she said to them, "Actually, how much is the max that I can actually get off?" And the woman said 200, and she said, "Well, can I take that?" And the woman said, "You know what? Have it." So now is the time to be, forward. We call it forward, isn't it? You're too forward. Be forward. Call people you need to call for help if you need a discount. I know somebody else who got their gas frozen. Their bill is frozen until 2 or 3 months. They won't be added. Nothing will be added on due to their circumstances, and you never know what favor, what blessings you're going to receive. So that's the note I want to end on: is have the tenacity to be forward and go and look for a course. Go and ask for the discount. Do whatever it is you want to do to help you get through these times positively and to your best ability. On that note, is there any lines you want to leave anyone with, Tony and Mr. C?
Listen, man, I think what you just said again, ask and you shall receive. Yes. Everything and everyone that you need, you already have. You just have to ask. It's as simple as that, As simple as that. And like for me, I've gone one step further. I've found my gas and my electricity, and I'm telling them, I'm not paying you nothing until this thing, all thing. You can come look for me, but nobody's coming into my yard because we're social distancing. So, on a serious note, ask, and it should be given to you. And everything and everybody that you need, you've already got. You just have to ask. That's it. That's for me.
Thank you.
Amen. Yeah. I think this is your opportunity, viewer, to grow, to become a person that you would not otherwise be. That's it.
Straight, live and direct from What a Week. You have had our words of wisdom. Mr. C and Tony, thank you so much again for joining me as my co-host this week. Thank you everyone for watching. Let me see. I just see something. Mortgage holiday guaranteed if you apply. See, there you go. There's another bit of information. Please share with others. Share with your friends, with your families. Anything that you've come across where you can get a discount or something can be frozen or something to help others. This is the week. It's Stephen Lawrence's celebration this week. And acts of kindness was another thing that everyone was doing in his name. So do your act of kindness this week. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you again next week on What a Week. Thank you for watching.